I travel a lot for work. I work in TV. I travel a lot, and I just got back from Italy, where I spent 3 weeks. And a lot of people, when you tell them that you're going to Italy for work, they're like, oh, that's great, I bet that's wonderful. But really, it's just work. It's the same as going any place else for work. It's really not that great. The only good thing is you get to see parts of the world that you can decide if whether or not you want to come back and visit them later. Now, I went to Italy, and I went to a town in Italy called Vicenza, which a lot of people have not heard of. The best way to describe it to people is it's the Scranton of Italy. And I don't mean that as a real slight against Scranton or Vicenza. I just mean that if you were listing all the cities that you would go to in the United States, Scranton would be very, very low on that list. Vicenza is very low on the Italy list. So that's where I was. And I was really in the outskirts of Vicenza, so imagine the Scranton suburbs. So now you know, it really wasn't that great. Well, the first night I got there, at 4 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. And it's 6 hours ahead, so I was just really thrown off. I was just kind of laying in bed, and I heard some rattling. And I thought, oh, the couple upstairs must be, really getting to it. And then the rattling got louder, and I thought, wow, the couple upstairs must be really obese. And then it like continued, and all the walls started shaking. And I was like, that's not the couple upstairs. So I figured it was an earthquake. I had never really been in an earthquake except the one that we had here, and that really wasn't an earthquake. Let me tell you how, having been through an earthquake. So I got up, threw on my jeans, threw on my glasses, and I grabbed my passport because I was terrified that I was going to be like stuck outside of my hotel. I should mention, I can't speak Italian. I've been there 3 times. I'm very, very terrible at Italian. Like, I can't speak it at all. I can speak Spanish. It really throws me off because I try to speak to Italians in Spanish. They don't like that. It also doesn't work. But so I was terrified of not being able to speak the language. Also didn't know the word for earthquake in Italian, which I recommend everyone learns the word for earthquake in whatever country you're visiting. It's terremoto, in case anybody is ever there and this happens to you. So I realized as I stood there, like the shaking stopped. I was still in the hotel room. It didn't last that long. And I could hear a lot of people out in the hall, but none of them were speaking English. So I realized that my fear of having to interact with people in Italian is much greater than my fear of earthquakes. So I stayed in my room. Now, a few people evacuated. I could hear people going up and down stairs and stuff, but really nothing happened. Evacuated the building. So an hour later, we had an aftershock. That's exactly what that is. That's an aftershock. It was pretty strong. And then like over the course of the week, because I was there for 3 weeks, over the course of the week, on the news, they said we had over 250 aftershocks. So just constantly while you were there, nothing was bad after that, but constantly you're like, is the ground moving? And someone else would say yes, and you were just in the middle of an earthquake. So I didn't really think much of it. I was nervous, I was scared in the moment. I found out on the news the next day that like a whole town was pretty much decimated. So I mean, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened. Just where I was, it really wasn't all that bad. Although once I heard that bad things happened, I started referring to myself as an earthquake survivor. And the story built. I was like, oh, things fell off the wall. And so about a week later, though, I was sitting with my friend from work at breakfast, and we were actually, I wasn't sitting yet, we were going to sit down. As we got over towards the seats, I noticed everyone in the breakfast restaurant, which is only about like 10 or 12 people, they got up and started to leave. And I thought that maybe we had offended somebody by messing up some sort of tradition or something. But I realized that as my rear end hit the seat, oh, it's another earthquake, and this was another big one. So I realized at the same time that my friend realized it. We looked at each other, and being earthquake veterans that we were, we did what we learned we should do in a situation like that. We finished our coffee.